we get on. So Felix, hi, nice of you to join me today. It's good to see you. It's a pleasure to reconnect. I've known you for many years from London. You've always been a big inspiration for me with the work that you do and how you conduct your life. So I wanted just to take this chance to connect, see how you're getting on, and talk about a life of discipline and practice, spiritual practice, to help shape our day-to-day reality, and then just use that as an entry point to explore kind of a conversation and explore who you are and how you see the world, and kind of your values, your virtues, your beliefs, and we take it from there.
Go on, man.
Start by doing a little introduction, giving us
Sure. Yeah, thanks, mate. Thank you very much. I'm excited. Good to see you again.
See you too.
And yeah, what can I say? What would you?
So I've been yoga's. So maybe I could just lead, because the story that, so in 2019 we was at 280, and I think we did an art exhibition together in London. We were celebrating symbols at the time, and exploring your relationship with symbols. And we actually we collaborated on an art show where we found a venue in central London in Mayfair, and you did a performance. You have, I would say, your alter ego, your avatar personality, which you kind of bring to your art experiences and that you use for painting. And you had like a body paint kind of like performance that kind of coincided with the art event that you hosted with some of your paintings. You've been painting symbols that I believe you connected to during your time when you lived in India, and you were meditating in India for a period of time. And then, was that in India you were meditating in a cave, and you lived in a cave, and then went to South America? How does that converge?
I traveled around India and South America, and over the years had various experiences in caves in Brazil, probably more in Brazil actually.
Okay.
Was the furthest I went into a cave-like experience. Okay. And yeah, had a lot of visions, and came back to London and carried on painting.
Okay.
Understanding more of where it was coming from.
Okay. Before we talk about that, there's a couple of things that I find really fascinating, because before you were fully committed to the yogic practice, and then you worked with plant medicine, and after your experience with plant medicine, you got into kind of more kind of physical practices like bodybuilding and calisthenics and mixed martial arts to support your yogic practice. And this was as a result of your experience with plant medicine and the way to ground your energy. You did over 100 ceremonies in a year with ayahuasca, where you got some very profound. Was this true? I mean, are these things?
Some bits, yeah. No, not quite all of it.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, the yoga. I had an experience. For me, my life changed in 2005, where I had an experience with psilocybin mushrooms, which was my first personal spiritual awakening, spiritual realization of my life. I'd been open-minded and interested in arts, creativity. I was very creative. Art was my foundation of everything I did. When I was a child, growing up around my family, very artistic, and I was in art school and passionate about being a painter. And then I had this spiritual experience where I, for the first time in my life, saw God. Seeing God now, I'd never consciously had an experience with something on a much greater scale than me, like an outer body experience, an out of ego experience, and felt this feeling of unconditional love, divine love for everything that was around me, and that was a catalyst to begin this journey of exploring spirituality. So in the moment that it was happening, felt that maybe that's how I was going to be for the rest of my life,
Mm-hmm.
in that state of being, that state of oneness, unity, and love, and this like higher awareness. And then the next day, when the psilocybin had like worn off, my usual patterns of thought were kind of beginning to return. I realized, oh, okay, that was a temporary experience.
Mm-hmm.
How can I? But that was the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. I want to feel like that the whole time. Like that's it just became clear. That's what this is about. That's what life is about. It's about feeling what I felt yesterday for everything. And I began looking into how can I sustain this feeling without plants. Because I just thought, okay, looking into it, there's people who feel like this the whole time, like enlightened beings, or these sages, or saints, or shamans, or these like different myths of this kind of state of being that it's possible to feel without anything, without taking any mushroom, without taking any external source. So I began to look into how I can maintain it, and it led me to, at the time, the thing that was easiest to kind of discover was yoga and meditation. I mean, I was actually at Glastonbury Festival when it happened. So this awakening happened in this festival. I'm surrounded by all this crazy, amazing, creative festival experience. And there was the Hare Krishna tent. As I actually found some people, they seemed like in some way they were actually like the ones talking about spirituality or meditation. So I began asking them all these questions. How can I maintain this? And they were like, well, look, you don't have to meditate, you don't have to chant, you don't have to do yoga. So then that's what kind of led me into the yogic path, was from that, really. And I dedicated myself to travel to India and learn techniques, learn from people who were feeling this feeling that I felt. And for quite a few years, 4 years or so, I hardly used any psychedelics at all, and I was much more into these like paths of like concentration, doing vipassana meditation retreats, and practice through asana and breath work, Ashtanga yoga, like all these different kind of like names of yoga, whatever the different brand or group there was, but just getting like discipline of my body and discipline of like, training my mind to feed it the whole time, whilst I was at art school and painting and exploring my painting work. But I could feel like this, like the urge to connect with the plants again was there, but it just kind of wasn't really presenting itself to me. I wasn't like desperately seeking it, because I felt kind of satiated by my experience that I'd had, with my intention, my motivation, my goal was clear, of like, okay, do these daily practices rather than like this taking in this big substance and blasting and then coming back. It was like, okay, no, I've seen what I needed to see. Now it's about daily discipline, daily concentration, daily practice, stretching, breath work. But it wasn't like I was pushing it away. It just wasn't presenting itself. And then when I was at art school, some guy, one of my friends, did this extra course about shamanism, and at one of the a subsidiary course that was available, and we were like talking about it a lot. And then one Monday morning, he came back and he just had this look in his eye. I was like, "What have you done? Like, wow, what did you do this weekend?" And he was like, "I went to an ayahuasca ceremony." I was like, "Whoa! I thought you had to go to the Amazon to do that. Where did you do it?" He's like, "I did it in Devon." I was like, "Boom! Where, like, tell me where it is. I want to go." And it presented it to me, you know. The opportunity kind of came, and I went to that ceremony, and it was like all the discipline that I'd done with my posture, like aligning my body and training my mind, got blasted into outer space by the ayahuasca. So it kind of quantum shifted me, and that opened up like a whole summer of ceremonies and really like structured, practical ways that felt like it felt perfect, like the timing, you know. Even though, like I say, like it was this external thing, I felt really benefited by it, because it had kind of been a bit of a weird process for the last few years of like being surrounded by people my age were not into like enlightenment and spirituality and meditation and yoga and stuff.
Sure.
It was like hedonism and drinking and getting drunk and like more like that kind of stuff. I seemed to be around, but whilst with this like like yearning for this thing. So when I was in this ayahuasca ceremony and surrounded by people all with the same vibe, I was like, wow, I felt found again. So you mentioned the like the plants, and then that leading to the weightlifting and stuff. Is kind of the opposite, really. Like the plants, in some way, like those first few years of ayahuasca took me really deeper into the astral stuff, less connected with my body, and I became thinner and thinner, and, more like spaced out than ever before, and ended up just following this like urge to disconnect from like modern society and London. I'd go away for a while, come back, and as soon as I get back to London, I'd want to leave as soon as I got there and get spun out by the modern life and everything. I just wanted to just be away from it all and go to nature. And then in 2012, that's when I like just finally allowed it, and I had a ticket back to London that I just let go, and I just carried on staying in Brazil, traveling. Just had no money, hardly anything, just hitchhiking, busking, just going like kind of gathering to gathering, very like off grid. And that's like when I went and lived in the cave, and finally I got to a place where I let so much go, something inside me went, and then I felt this inner peace, that shift inside, and then something clicked and shifted, and then I realized that this thing that I've been searching for externally in some beautiful waterfall outside was actually inside. And then I got this massive wave of inspiration and motivation to return to London and share this with everybody back in London. But then I kind of came out of the cave and got back into society and had to work there, make money, and then get back to the UK and back to London and start again. And then when I came back, I was like a twig. I was so thin and had like very ungrounded, and like trying to kind of present this like rainbow hippie beautiful message from the Brazilian forest of ayahuasca and peace and love to like the very like hard edge of London, the urban grit and grime of the grey, the big beast of London, was like, whoa, I am going to have to, gradually over some couple of years, I was initiated back into being grounded, really, and the universe led me to find teachers that were martial arts teachers and calisthenics gyms and different communities, where at first when I entered them I was like a very small fish in like a shark tank, and but it was that was a kind of massive awakening for me of realizing how much I needed to do that, and I just embraced it, and I dived head straight into it and spent a few years, 3 or 4 years, just like returning to the gym, returning to the MMA, to the weights, and that's where I also changed my diet from being very vegan and almost like aspiring to be a breatharian in some ways, to eating meat and doing weights and doing kickboxing and wrestling and jiu-jitsu. So that's why at some point along that journey, I thought, out of respect for yoga, rather than saying I'm doing yoga and I'm living a completely different lifestyle than the very associated vegetarian lifestyle that comes with yoga, and even vegan in like the modern yoga scene of London, it was like, okay, are you vegan? That was like a big thing. I was a big part of it for a while. It became clear to myself that I needed to develop needed to describe myself as something different out of respect and like honesty. So the name mixed spiritual arts came to me as a way I could describe everything that I do in like an umbrella term. So rather than say it's like shamanic, some kind of yoga or this kind of yoga, I thought I'll just kind of bow out from using the word yoga and create a new phrase that gives me license to be myself, to be an artist, to do this whole range of like full expression of who I am, shamanism, the ayahuasca, the martial arts, the spiritual arts. Like it includes all of yoga as well. Everything's welcome, really. And yeah, that's kind of, that has been my journey back to the weights and the different disciplines, and with so much love and gratitude and continued daily connection with the traditions from India, the Himalayan wisdom that's been passed down for thousands of years.
Amazing. What strikes me is this mindset that you have, which many people would have the psychedelic experience or do mushrooms, but then they will not find the inherent discipline to make that conscious shift and to say, wow, I've had this experience, that was profound, I know what I want to get, I know it's this incredible experience, I'm going to go and seek this thing and not get distracted along the way. And that single pointed focus that you exhibited or have exhibited or do exhibit through much of your life, where did that come from? Because that's the game changer, actually. That's where a lot of people get stuck, because they might go, that was incredible, I had this experience, but probably doesn't make sense to me. They'll go back to the same experience and they won't find the inner compass to say, you can't blast yourself off into the ethernet. You've got to now embody and ground that and find that within yourself and explore it differently to develop this discipline. How do you develop the discipline, the embodied discipline? Where has that come from?
Well, I mean, firstly, just to say, I had to kind of laugh when you said like without distractions or something, because it's not been it's not been a completely straight path. There's plenty of ups and downs and twists and turns, and times when I've been like, as I'm asked the question and when I bring up the answer, it can be clear, you know. But whilst one is inside the wood and there's all the trees, the pathway is not always as clear as the bird's eye view. So, you know, I had this massive life-changing experience, and then I was also in art school hanging around with all these other, you know, just normal early life student stuff, kind of like in it and out of it at the same time. So I would get distracted and divulge from this like pure path. Like it wasn't just like a straight line. Plenty of distractions, plenty of obstacles, plenty of ups and downs. But I think for me, like the power of the experience and the connection that I had was in such comparison than the previous experiences of my life, that it's like kind of just was like this beacon, like this mountaintop, you know.
This one.
Yeah, like so no matter how much I got lost, I could still kind of like look up and be like, right, it's there, and I know
what it is.
I have seen this glory, I felt this experience. So no matter how I got lost in the valleys, there's always kind of like this like guiding light,
amazing,
you know, that could kind of bring me back in. And also, you know, one of the main things was pain, I think, that kept me disciplined. My body, so basically my body is very, very hypermobile with my joints. They're very open. So it's as if my body needs to be stretched and squeezed in a really deep sequence of stretches, or it begins to be uncomfortable. I think a lot more than people who have like a normal range of mobility just maybe don't need to do as much as I do to kind of stay pain-free. seemed like if I didn't do the discipline, if I didn't do the practice, I would begin to get intense back pains or just like intense discomfort in my body. So it's what led me to the very first yoga classes I ever went to, which were before the big mushrooms experience. I've been doing a few, like I've been doing a bit here and there. And it had come from a condition called sciatica. So my lower back, like these nerves, there's a nerve that goes from your lower back down your legs, called the sciatic nerve. And when this gets really tight, this pinches and it's very painful. So I was working on like a building site at the time, just doing all this manual labor and doing just, you know, teenage gym stuff, push-ups and pull-ups and stuff, but building up this massive amount of tension in my lower back that created this big pain. Like it would just spontaneously arise, these massive like back spasms. So I had to go and seek out healing for that. I found my friend's mum was an osteopath. She cracked me out in an amazing way a couple of times. And then I saw this yoga sign and I went to that, and that changed my life. Like this 1 hour of yoga there, like just doing all these twistings, all this pain just like melted away. So it was like a micro version of the mushroom experience, whereas where I could release the physical pain. And maybe I'd do it and then I wouldn't do it for a while and the pain would build up again. So I'd go and do the class again. And it kind of just went through this cycle of doing that until it just became obvious that, okay, if I don't do this, the pain's going to return. And if I do this, I feel great. So it just became like this kind of no-brainer. I had this one CD. It was like 90 minutes of this teacher leading this sequence. It was David Svensson's Ashtanga Level 2. It was 90 minutes, and if I just put it on in my CD player in my bedroom, press play, and I had this little chart with all the positions he was saying, and just followed it. I like at the time I didn't know like any of these positions. I couldn't remember these sequences, but if I just listened to what he was saying and just did that, I knew that in an hour and a half I would feel absolutely amazing for the whole day. It's buzzing, like super sensation in my body. So I just began being like, all right, well, I'll just wake up earlier and just do that first, rather than waking up and then walking around with this like my back hurting all day, which just wasn't fun. So really, it's at the very first thing that kind of like taught me the discipline was my own physical pain. That was one of my greatest teachers. And then I think, you know, it transcended that after some point where it wasn't just about getting rid of pain, because I kind of got rid of that. Like the physical practice had become something I kind of just enjoyed and loved so much. Then I became really, really curious and interested in what is this experience like when I did the Vipassana meditations. And then I had a community of people in London who were doing the Vipassana meditation as well. So I had like one hand, I had these crazy art friends who were like debauchery and hedonism and getting drunk and taking drugs and stuff. And then I had this other set of people who were like in their 30s, 40s, 50s, like lawyers and architects and doctors who were like going. We'd do these Vipassana meditation retreats in London, or I'd go away to the place in the countryside in the UK and
amazing
have this other thing that like really grounded me. Yeah, it wasn't a straight path, but just over like trial and error, I just learned that when I do these disciplines, I feel so much better within myself, and kind of that was what grounded me and kept me going through those kind of early years, really.
I also remember something that popped into my mind that you said when you met Muji, and you always wondered, or you were like, Muji is obviously he's one of the enlightened non-duality teachers or avatars in London, but you were always surprised that he let himself go physically. You felt that this idea that lots of these very elevated spiritual masters didn't have to worry about the body. Didn't pay attention to the body, and they would allow it just to disintegrate, and that always struck a chord with me. And I'm not, and for one, like, is that vanity, or is it just self-care? And when you're in the enlightened state and you've surrendered everything, where is the body in that? And you know, what is the relationship with the body? Because for you, Muji's the teacher, but equally there's this kind of aspect where you don't understand how he would negate the physicality. Or is that still the case, or has your perspective shifted on that?
Yeah, that's to be honest, that's still the case. What I love about Muji is when I met him a few times, there seemed to be this. I've never been to one of his big satsangs or anything. Like I've always met him maybe 4 times, like in person in a park. I met him once, and then the other 3 times were in the high street in West Norwood, like near my dad's place. And he didn't seem to be trying to tell me anything. He was just being. He was just very loving and very kind and very, very friendly. And there was a moment when they were like, yeah, do a photo. Like after, I think it was the 3rd time I met him. And they were like, yeah, let's take a photo of you, his friends that were with him. We sat down, and then he said, oh yeah, they showed me, after we met you last time, they showed me a video of you. You are a real yogi. So I don't know what video they showed him of me, but maybe one of me doing, handstand and scorpion and all these different things. He's like, yeah, you're the real yogi. I'm a bogey. I'm a bogey.
He said that.
He said, yeah, and I was like, wow, it was very interesting. But in some way, I felt like he was like telling me kind of what I'd been questioning myself.
Okay, interesting.
I don't know if you can see, but
time's about to go. On set, I'm gonna call you. We're gonna stop the recording here.
Okay.
Time's going, and then I'll call you on the phone. Okay. Well, I think we're gonna have to do a part 2.
Okay, sure.
One second, let me call you because I already got.
I can call you back on my Zoom if you want. I'll send you my
do. Lovely.
I'll send you my Zoom link, and then I can send you that recording.